Hello and welcome to week 4 of English 1120 online. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes to watch this video. I know that you are knee-deep in papers and research and writing and revision, so I will try to keep this video brief. So the first thing I want to cover is week 4. As you can see, this week starts with peer review, and this is the first time we've done peer review in our class. As you can tell, we're going to do peer review on paper 2, on paper 3, and then again on the final paper. So 3 times throughout the class, and peer review is worth 25 points. So when you get started this week with peer review, you're going to want to take a look first at the new tab that has shown up on Blackboard this week, and that's peer review. When you go into the peer review tab, the first thing you're going to see is peer review guidelines, and it's really important to open these up and read them really carefully. It's a couple of pages, and it's going to cover exactly what I'm looking for, what I want you to get out of it, how the points are distributed, what the guidelines are, and there's a sample for a really good peer review response and a not so good peer review response. So I want to emphasize in our class that the peer review process, which is worth 25 points each time we do it, that's a lot of points because I put a lot of stock into this. So you want to put 25 points worth of effort into the peer review process. So the first 10 points is for posting your paper Sunday night to the peer review board, your complete draft. You want it to be finished, include the works cited, and follow the directions in the peer review guidelines to do that. And also to post 3 questions that you have about your papers for your peers. Now, Sunday or Monday, at some point, you're going to read 2 peers' papers. And this is really where the 25 points comes in my mind, why this is so important to me. When you're reading the 2 papers, you're going to be paying attention to another person's writing, and you're going to come across probably a paper that might be better than yours. And instead of feeling like, wow, that's great, I don't know what to say about it, instead think, wow, that's a good paper, that's awesome. Now I get to read a really good example. When that happens, you're going to offer advice, questions that you have about the topic. You're going to point to areas that you think are working really well or that you thought were a good idea. You're going to respond to the 3 questions they set up. So you're going to have lots to say on that. If you come across one that feels like, wow, this person has a lot of work to do, hey, that's awesome too. That means that you have a lot of opportunities to help that person develop a stronger draft. That process of reading some other human being's paper who's working on the same assignment, who's in the same class and under the same pressures as you, and then trying to offer feedback, that's where you're going to do most of your learning for peer review. If you happen to get good feedback back, well, that's a bonus, but I can't promise it will happen every time. The better feedback you provide and the more detail you provide, the higher grade you'll get for the peer review. But again, remember that it's the giving of feedback where you learn the most. That's what I want you to get out of this process. So if you get good feedback, that's a bonus, but giving good feedback is much more important in my mind. So that's going to take place Sunday and Monday. And that leaves you all day Tuesday to finish any kind of revisions that you want, and all day Wednesday to finish any revisions you want, and get that final paper to me for feedback on Wednesday. Okay. So, as you can see this week, peer review draft, complete the peer review responses, and then turn in the final draft to me. You'll notice there's not a discussion on Tuesday this week, no quiz, no discussion, no reading, to give you plenty of time to get that first paper in the shape that you want it to be. This paper, paper 2, is worth 100 points and is really the most point-worthy paper until the final. All right, and then on Thursday you're reading 2 chapters out of the textbook, one on logical fallacies and one on cause and effect. And these are really important concepts to review so that you can understand what to avoid in your writing and how to explain things in a way that does a good job and that is ethical and useful. All right, and then your responses will be due on Friday as usual. Next week, looking ahead, paper 3, again, the draft is due on Sunday, peer review, and then turn in. So the next 2 weeks are pretty heavy in work, and then going into Thanksgiving, it lightens up a little bit. You're going to do a lot of independent research and writing, and then finals week, we work on that final paper. So that's just a preview of where we're headed. Again, this is basically midterm of a traditionally paced class, so we're quickly catching up to those other classes that you're in. All right, so then your next step for week 4 is to get started on the paper 3 solution paper. Again, this is taking the same topic, and we're moving toward that final paper where you're going to be writing about a problem and solution. So for paper 2, you write about the causes and consequences of a problem. And paper 3, you're going to do your best to explain what you think can be done to address the problem. Now, your solution doesn't have to completely fix everything, because that's not realistic. Instead, think of a practical way that your community, your county, your school, your state could address something to improve it. All right. Now, one of the biggest mistakes or pitfalls that students fall into when they first start thinking about their solutions is that they often think about just providing advice to an audience. So let's say if I was going to write about science classes at Lakeland, and this is the example in the paper, this is the example in the paper directions. If I was, so let's say the problem was that students at Lakeland were frequently failing or dropping out of science classes. All right. What I don't want to do is just, excuse me, just tell people to study harder, right? Obviously that actually does work. More time spent working on the classes and dedicated to the classes helps. But I can't do that, right? Because my audience isn't going to be students. They may not actually be able to implement my proposal. So I wouldn't want to set up a paper where I just say, study skills are really important. It's important that you study 2 to 3 hours per hour of class for every week. That's not what I'm looking for. I want to just offer advice. I'm not writing a column in the Lakelander that's designed to be read for students. Instead, I'm going to think about what can I do at a community level, at a state level, at a county level to work on this problem. Well, I happen to know that a lot of the research shows that increased rigor in high schools improves students' success in college. So the harder the curriculum in high school, the better students do in college when they encounter that more rigorous curriculum there. So then I think, all right, instead of telling students in college just to study harder, I need to address how to increase the rigor of the high school curriculum in my county or in my state. Now all of a sudden I have a solution that is going to require a lot of research. Now I have to go look at who else has a more rigorous science curriculum, how does that get implemented, who's going to pay for it, who's going to teach it. I probably come across some research that shows that other states are working on improving the curriculum in science, that there's actually been an improved curriculum that's being put in place this year and next year for science and math called the Common Core. But that science standards haven't been raised yet. So all of a sudden I'm in this other conversation that I might not have talked about in my problem paper. So it might require some new research for me to go out and seek these things out. There's a video this week, an audio recording actually this week, an NPR story that looks at how to solve the problem of physical inactivity among children. And this is one example of what I'm looking for, some kind of program or idea that, again, your community, your school, your county, or your state could implement, not an individual person, right? So I'm not telling one person what to do. I'm thinking about a broader audience, okay? If I was going to talk about curriculum standards, I might be talking to the Board of Education. I might be talking to Governor Kasich. And all of a sudden, I have to think about, if Governor Kasich is my audience, what are his priorities? What does he care about? He cares about education, of course, but he also cares a lot about the budget and about teacher accountability, holding teachers accountable for high standards, for student achievement, and maintaining a budget that he feels is appropriate for the state. So I have to address all of those issues in my problem paper in 900 to 1,200 words, excluding the works cited. So the point here is to be concise, consistent, logical, ethical, and creative. So feel free to be a little bit creative. You're going to see one example of this in the folder for this week, and that is the sample. Let's go back to the weekly plans, and you're going to see the sample paper this week actually looks for a creative solution for reducing the number of plastic bags flying around Lake Erie. Okay, and so this student decided that starting small and just asking one grocery chain to reduce the bags would be useful. She has evidence all the way through her paper, but read it carefully and notice that when she gets to the feasibility portion, she had to sort of back away from evidence a little bit and just explain herself using logic. So it's okay to do a little bit of that, but you want to have support all the way through. All right, and so that's paper 3 for the week. So this week, again, our job is to continue our research, to work on peer review for the first time, to read about cause and effect and logical fallacies, to start to think more so about your solution, to select a specific audience and state who that audience is, remembering that it's not a general audience. It's a community, it's a school, it's a school board, it's a business organization, not individuals. And that also means you're not going to be talking to your audience as you're going to keep it as formal as you can. And really just taking your time, continuing your research, keeping your head above water. I know this week and next week are a lot of work, and then it's going to shift over to more independent work as we get closer and closer to the end of the semester, which is happening very quickly for our class. Again, if you have any questions at all about the feedback on your first paper, about working toward your second paper, about your solution, about a source, about how to cite something, anything at all, feel free to please email me or stop by office hours or call my office. A lot of times that one-on-one interaction is what's missing from an online class, and so the only way for you to get that is to initiate it. So again, shoot me an email with any questions, even if you're not exactly sure how to phrase your question. I look forward to seeing those emails. This is the point in the semester where in a face-to-face class, there's a line of students waiting to ask questions before and after class. So let's make sure we do that in our class as well by sending me emails with any questions that you have. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and I'm here as a resource to help you do well in this class, but you have to reach out to me to make that happen, all right? Otherwise, enjoy peer review. Let me know if you have questions. Good luck on paper 3, and I'll see you in week 5.